It's engineered for perfection. Every contour sculpted for uninterrupted motion. Wider, smoother, more refined, and drives like a dream. Introducing the 2026 E470. Experience the difference.
Hey, it's Ryan from That Car Show, and lucky you, it's a bonus episode. And when I told you all I was planning to sit down with a guy who runs a tollway, a lot of you had questions. Apparently, tollways are the source of a lot of speculation and a bit of mystery even. So I caught up with Joe Donahue, CEO and Executive Director of E470 right here in Colorado. And we did it properly with him behind the wheel, driving the road he runs. And while I don't know that I've ever been on a nicer, better maintained road, there is a little road noise on this one. Comes with the territory, but stick around because this is a genuinely interesting conversation. We dispel some myths, uncover some truly interesting facts, and nerd out on what it takes to operate what might just be one of the best run roads in the country. You can find E470 online, of course, at e470.com and on Instagram at E470 Tollway. It's Joe Donahue, CEO and Executive Director of Colorado's E470, and it's That Car Show. Hey, it's Ryan from That Car Show, and I am here today with the CEO and Executive Director of E470, Joe Donahue. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So we are behind the wheel of a big Suburban on E470, and I should probably explain, or we should probably explain exactly what E470 is. I know it's the toll road in Colorado, but beyond that, what is E470?
Well, it is a toll road. It was a toll road that was imagined about 30 or 40 years ago to really become an economic development engine of the eastern part of Denver. So it runs from South Denver at E470 and C470 at I-25, and it goes all the way up north to about Highway 7, just south of there. And back in the time that they decided to make it a toll road, the governor and several of the state legislators knew that there wasn't going to be enough funding to build a beltway around Denver, so they said, let's create a toll road authority and build a toll road out there.
Well, the first thing I noticed is that the road is very smooth. It seems like the lanes may be a little wider than your typical lane, and I think of the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer adopts part of the highway and then paints over some of the lanes, right?
Yeah.
So you've got lots of room. It's probably the closest thing. I don't want to call it the Autobahn. That's probably not what you want to hear, right? For car enthusiasts, but it's a really great tarmac. Is it a different tarmac than maybe what we'd see on 70?
No, I think our lanes are wider. We have 12-foot lanes. We also go with wider shoulders. It's built to the highway standards, but we're not sort of pressed for space, so we're able to take the full width of the road and leave the lanes at 12 foot. We don't have any construction sort of pushing it in. So,
and why do people take E470 versus some of the, I guess the quote unquote free roads?
Well, I would tell you the airport is a big draw. We have about 25% of our traffic is going to the airport, either as a passenger or as an employee. Mm-hmm. But they also take it because there's no congestion on E470. It's really built and designed to be congestion free. We maintain it at such a level that we don't want to have congestion, so we stay ahead. We add capacity when we need to add capacity, but it's really a time saving. It's dependable. Even when we have incidents, we clear them very quickly, and so when somebody needs to be somewhere in an amount of time, they don't sort of roll the dice and get on I-25 or 270 or whatever it is. I think it's really dependability.
So what's to do with the E470 Exposed? I've seen some things around town that got my gears turning.
Well, it was sort of the beginnings of a campaign for E470, and we went through a rebranding this year, and the whole intent of the rebrand was to really get the public to understand what E470 is and why we do what we do. And so it's really an opportunity for us to get really factual information out there about who owns E470, why is it a toll road, how long will it be a toll road, and all those things, because there's so much myth out there, and everybody's an expert on everything, and so you get on social media and you talk about the toll road and someone who knows exactly what's supposed to happen, and and we're owned by the Japanese because we're privately owned and the money's going somewhere else, and we just wanted to get the truth out there.
Yeah. I guess Denver has some things that sort of get conspiracy folks' hearts aflutter, like the airport you mentioned and Lucifer and all this. But it does seem like E470 is pretty straightforward, right? And you mentioned, is it going to be a toll road forever? Is it going to be a toll road forever?
Well, I would tell you that there's no plans for it not to be a toll road, and so there many years ago, 50 years ago, but US 36 was the Boulder Denver Turnpike, and they came in and the governor at the time said, well, geez, let's get this paid off and take the tolls off of it. But the revenue we collect does more than just pays the debt. It operates the road, but it also ensures that we can keep 12-foot wide lanes to keep the road smooth and add capacity. So, I always tell people, hey, if you want to take the tolls off, we can do that, but we're going to look an awful lot like I-25.
Well, and that's a great point. Joe, I've not seen one pothole since we got on the road here, which is kind of incredible. As a car guy, the people listening to the show are enthusiasts. This is a big deal where, we don't like having to repair rims or fix tires or this kind of thing.
Right.
This is incredible. I've only been on this road a handful of times. I guess I'd forgotten how good it really is. It really is. It's got to be the best road surface in this state. It's got to be, right?
Yeah. Well, we definitely pride ourselves on keeping the road smooth, but we also keep it clear of debris. And we have technology. We monitor the road, monitor percent with cameras. We actually have technology in those cameras now that allows us, if there's debris on the road, it'll alert our traffic management center that there's something on the road, and we can get somebody up here to clear it off, because it's bad enough to have a pothole, but if there's a big chunk of metal laying on the road, that also creates hazard as well. So.
Right. And a lot of folks listening live here in Colorado and talk about needing a new windshield about once a year, right? But that generally happens in 70. I'm not seeing a thing on this road surface. In fact, there's hardly any trash. It's just it's an exceptionally nice piece of pavement. That said, I bet you've seen some strange things in your tenure. What's the strangest thing you've ever seen go down a E470?
Oh, well, I could tell you lots of stuff. I was driving to work just a few months ago, and there was a recliner sitting next to me, and I felt, well, geez, hop out and put that in the back of my truck and put it in my office.
Yeah, how does that happen? I assume it fell off, but...
but it was sitting up perfectly.
Oh, wow.
Like somebody could be sitting there watching the traffic drive by.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's I suppose you kind of keep the riffraff off there, right? Because you do charge, right? You have a different category of people maybe that...
Oh, yeah, but we also get some really creative individuals that they really love to try to deceive us. We've seen people, there were pictures, because we take pictures of every car that comes through that doesn't have a transponder. We've seen people hang out of their trunk and put their hand over the license plate. We've seen motorcyclists turn backwards, put their hand over the license plate. We actually it caught a guy a couple of years ago, right before I started here. He was taking his license plate off. He was sitting on one of our ramps and taking his license plate off and driving the road and then putting it back on. And it was our surveillance cameras that saw him stop on this ramp every day, and he would take his license plate off. And they sent the state patrol up there. They could see him taking his plate off, and they sent him up there. And sure enough, he was. They could, because we get the image still. We could see the vehicle. We didn't know where it was, but we knew what time of day. The guy was commuting and just not paying his tolls.
Yeah, I guess this is not the place you want to be if you have no license plate or have a paper plate from 2024, that kind of thing. And this is enforced. The enforcement here is all state patrol.
Yeah. Now the tolls, we enforce that, but the traffic enforcement is state patrol. But the counties and the cities can also write a ticket out here. And people would be fooled if you're out here doing 100 miles an hour and there's a county sheriff. They're probably going to pull you over. But as far as incident management, we do use the state patrol, just because we don't run into jurisdictional type issues after who's in charge here. It's also a hazmat route, and so we were dedicated as a hazardous materials route a few years ago. So it keeps any hazardous material off the local roads, so they can move it north to south.
So growing up in Chicago and Kansas, of all places, where I did. In Kansas, we had the turnpike, and you used to have to stop with these like punch cards, right? And so every, I don't know, 12 miles or something, you'd stop, you hand it over to the person. In Chicago, you know, we were known for the Skyway, right? You drop your handful of change, hopefully not drop it. It was all very archaic. This is not that. As we're driving here, everything is automated. In fact, I think you had a part in the automation, right? In the product that actually does the automation.
Oh, right. Yeah. So we used to be, years ago, was sort of traditional tolling. We had express lanes where you could drive through and didn't have to stop, but we also had cash lanes where you'd pull over into toll booths, and we had toll collectors out there. And we also had at the ramps, certain locations, we had coin machines. So where to the Skyway, you'd throw your money in there.
Right.
Back in 2009 and 2010, we decided we were going to go cashless. For a lot of reasons, safety being one of them. And anytime you get traffic merging into other traffic, slower traffic going into faster traffic, it creates a hazard. But it really wasn't operationally efficient. Yeah. When you have toll collectors sitting in a toll booth overnight and they're, seeing 10 or 15 vehicles come through, but you're paying a person and actually free people to man a toll plaza because you have a manager and so on each side. And so it wasn't making sense, and the technology is changing so much. Who knows what people ask me, we have to change our system in 10 years. What are we going to put in? I tell them, I honestly don't know, because it's changing so quickly with technology, vehicles being able to communicate to roadside, communicate with other vehicles. GPS has become very, very accurate to where they could tell if I'm in this lane versus that lane. So, but I think that was really the driver, was we were trying to keep up with technology, but it's also better customer service. You get on the road, you don't have to stop.
Yeah. One of the things I like is someone who doesn't always drive E470. It's just not a part of my daily routine. For a lot of people listening, it is. I don't actually have a transponder. It's not even a transponder. It's a sticker. Right now, I don't have any idea how that works. RF, I guess. Yep. But if you don't have a sticker, if you're from out of state, if it's not part of your daily routine and you drive E470, it's not that big of a deal. You basically just get a bill in the mail, right? And it's negligible. It's not like you are penalized in any way. You might do it.
No, our goal ultimately is to collect the toll. And so, we give preferred pricing if you have a transponder, because it's a lot more efficient for us. We don't have to look up the owner of the vehicle. We don't have to send a piece of mail and process the payment. We can simply, the transponders associated to your vehicle, associated to account, you drive through it, it's automatic. But you're right, it's really easy. There's no prohibition customers to get right on the road and drive it, and we'll look up their information with the Department of Motor Vehicles and send them a bill.
I got to give you a shout out for your lane discipline. That's something a lot of people who listen to that car show, we have an issue with, people who don't pay attention to that. So kudos. I suppose you monitor all that, right? You must have all this data on just driving and behaviors and all this. And I'm sure that helps form signage and your future plans, right? I mean, how would you rate Colorado? You've lived in Texas, other places. Drivers in Colorado pretty good overall, or?
They're okay. I mean, it's interesting coming from Texas. If you've ever driven to Texas, that the speed limit is pretty much as fast as you can go.
Yeah.
Up to the car in front of you, and that you get them to move over. I think Colorado, I would say they're a little bit more conservative in their driving, much slower. I think some of the challenges I see is, to your point, lane discipline.
Yeah.
People don't. They want to stay a little bit under the speed limit, but they want to stay on the left lane. And that's not stuff that we necessarily monitor.
Yeah.
But, we do know where volumes of traffic are. Anytime we have a tolling location, we can see where the traffic is, and we know the time of day. And, we're very aware of the volumes building. As you saw as we were driving, we're down to 4 lane or 2 lanes in each direction now. We just came out of 3 lanes in each direction. And our plan is to actually widen this section, and will be under construction this summer.
Yeah, that work is going on in front of us right now. Yeah.
This is a brand new interchange actually that we're building. We're in partnership with the city and the county that we're in here, this Sable Boulevard, and they wanted an interchange here, so we put an interchange up. The one thing that the one thing that's great about E470 is we can get projects done a whole lot quicker. Because we have funding. That's what the tolls represent is when we need to add an interchange, we need to add a lane, we've got funding to do it. But we also, we don't fall under the same rules as the state. I mean, we're a political subdivision of the state, but we're not under the same procurement rules and things like that. I mean, we have our own policies and we do things fairly, but we like to be nimble and get things done quickly. So that interchange probably is going to take us, by the time it's all said and done, less than a year and a half to build.
Okay, wow. So efficiency really is sort of baked into the thing. What are some things about E470 that people might not know?
Well, I think one of the things, it's again, who owns E470? E470 is owned by the cities and counties that we operate in. And so we have three counties and 5 cities that we operate in. It's Adams, Arapahoe, Douglas counties. Okay. And then we have, from the north to south, we got Thornton, Brighton, Commerce City, Aurora, and Parker are the voting members. And so we don't do anything without that board of directors making a decision for it. And those board members are all elected officials by those jurisdictions. They're either county commissioners or city council or mayor of those respective cities. And so that they control it all. I think the other thing is E470 does more than just builds roads. We're not quite up here yet, but this regional park here has a trail system. We've built 24 miles of trail on our road as well. Okay. Yeah. And so the intent is we're going to have a trail that runs the length of the road. And I think the important thing is we're actually tapping into the existing trail system so that, if there's already trails like here at the Adams County Regional Park, we're going to connect into that trail system so that not only can you get north-south, along E470, but you can get into the trails that are already connected to those cities.
Yeah, I certainly had no idea that you were involved building trails.
The other thing we do is we actually partner with many of our jurisdictions. We have built infrastructure that may not have been built otherwise. A good example is that interchange you just saw. Adams County and Brighton, they really wanted an interchange there. Adams County has their government center there, and they said, hey, we'd love to have a interchange here, but we can't afford to build a $40 million interchange. So we partner with them, and we're paying about 2/3 of that out of the toll dollars that we collect. But again, it serves the customers on E470 that want to get into Brighton. They can have access there, but it also helps those cities to get infrastructure that otherwise they didn't have.
Yeah. And it's a really pleasant drive. It's a pretty drive. I mean, we're actually in some hills here, right? I'm not exactly sure where we are, but it's if you just want to get in the car and go to the airport or whatever, I can't imagine a nicer way of doing it. So obviously your numbers are growing. You have plans for expansion. You must look 20, 30, 40 years into the future to see what's needed. I suppose that the projections are still that Denver's going to continue to grow, especially to the east. Mm-hmm. Give me some facts and figures about, the usage of the road and sort of where you predict things will be 10, 20 years from now.
Well, right now, really, every toll road and every agency in the country that does this sort of uses the COVID, that's like supposed to that sort of embarkation.
Right.
But, we recovered from COVID in about 2 years.
Okay.
And we actually, by 2023, we had exceeded our projections that were pre-COVID projections. And so right now we grow about 6-7% a year in volume, and also that same amount in revenue. And so we're getting a lot of organic growth. I think the unique thing about E470 is we haven't raised our tolls in almost 8 years,
really?
Which is really an odd circumstance. Perhaps most toll roads every few years, they're raising their tolls to sort of keep up with their costs of operation and whatever their capital needs are. And we're very fortunate in that we haven't had to raise our tolls because we're seeing so much growth. Yeah. But because of that, we're also seeing the need for additional capacity. So, as I said, we've got another widening program that we're getting ready to start this year, and it'll go about 7 or 8 miles from about 104th Avenue on our road up just past US 85, and then as soon as we finish that, this section that we're in now will be widened all the way up to I-25, which you just see the bridge up there That's the very north end of our road.
Okay.
And so this section from when we left the office to where we are now, just north of I-70, is really the growth corridor for the Front Range. And so it's sort of Adams County, Commerce City, Brighton, really up I-76. And so not only are going to widen the road to go to 6 lanes total, 3 in each direction, but we're also planning 2 major interchanges, one at I-70, which today you can get onto I-70, but you have to go down to some traffic lights. It's not a direct interchange like you would if like the interstate up here. But we're also going to build an interchange at I-76, which when we go back, I'll point it out. Right now we have 2 connections. You can go from E470 northbound to I-76 northbound, or if you're coming southbound on I-76, you could get on E470 towards the airport or southbound. And those are the only 2 connections we have. We'd like that ultimately in the next 7 to 10 years will be a full interstate interchange like the one you see up here, to where customers can go any direction from either highway. And so that's really in response to the growth, but we also see additional interchanges to be built. Right at 6 Parkway, where the authority is, we'll need to widen those ramps and that bridge to carry the capacity that's crossing our road. In fact, this bridge up here that we're coming up on, the city's actually have red widened this, so this will be a crossing that, and we'll participate in that project as far as making sure that it gets built to the standard we need it to be built at. But so a lot of new interchanges coming. I see probably in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to spend probably $2.5 billion of additional capacity. And then we'll actually go back down south to the south end of the road and widen down south to 8 lanes, which is the oldest section of the road. So from I-25 down south to Parker Road, we'll widen that to 8 lanes, and then ultimately up to Pena Boulevard will get wide to 8 lanes. And it's just based on the capacity we're seeing.
So it's obvious you have a passion for this growing up. Did you want to run a toll road or a tollway?
I actually wanted to be a baseball player.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. What's funny is I didn't even know what the toll road was.
Sure.
And actually, right out of college, I worked on an ambulance for about 7 years. And decided that I wanted to go back and get my accounting and finance degree, which I did.
Okay.
And I got a job as a financial analyst at the toll road in 2000. And so I knew nothing about it. I remember thinking, there's a toll road in Colorado, and what am I going to do working at a toll road? I mean, what do they do? And so obviously I started, and so my story is pretty interesting because I started here in 2000 as a financial analyst, and I worked my way up and became the CFO. And in 2012, so I worked for about 12 years here. In 2012, I left, moved to Texas, and I became a consultant. And I was working for toll roads around the country. And I did that for about 12 years, and then came back to E470. It was hired as their executive director back in 2024. And it's interesting because you brought up Kansas, and I actually did some work with Kansas for about 5 years.
Really?
And, the system you were describing of pulling a ticket, they don't do that anymore. We converted their road to an all-electronic toll road like E470.
So you were part of that,
Yep. Now, you don't pull a ticket in Kansas. You just drive through, and just like they do here, do it in Kansas. And there's something really unique about Kansas and Colorado, and that if you have a transponder, you can use your E470 transponder. You can use it in Kansas or Oklahoma or Texas.
Okay.
And so if you drive one of those roads, they'll send us the transaction, and we'll post that transaction to your account here, so you can drive the toll roads there with a transponder.
Yeah, I suppose you sort of nerd out on this kind of stuff, right? I mean, there are probably better toll roads in your opinion, less good toll roads and this kind of thing. You want to give a shout out to a couple of other systems maybe in the U.S. that you think do it right?
Well, I mean, I take a lot of pride in the fact the work I did in Kansas, like I just said. They're all unique, and I did a lot of work with New Jersey, which they're a huge system, but they just operate different there. They actually invest a lot of money into transit, So tolls that are collected on the New Jersey Turnpike are actually funding New Jersey Transit as well.
I see.
Texas has I spent a lot of time in Texas, so they have a really good system. They have a lot of toll roads down in Texas, and similar to here, people complain about, well, why are there so many toll roads? We want to get rid of the toll roads, but Texas did the same thing Colorado did about 30 years ago. They realized that there's a lot of growth coming to Texas, and they knew they weren't going to have sort of the traditional funding that it was going to take to build out that highway system. And so I think that's really the big secret about tolling is, nobody likes to pay for it, but it costs a lot of money to build roads and to operate roads. And so the traditional mechanisms that are out there in the fuel tax and, whether it be state or federal, it just doesn't go as far anymore. Mm-hmm. And so tolling is part of that solution. And that's why I take a lot of pride in that. And that, we try to keep the tolls as low as we can to pay for what we need. We're not paying investors, and nobody's getting rich off of E470, though we do collect a lot of money. It costs, just to operate the road, it costs about $100 million a year to maintain it and operate it and do all the things that it takes. And then we spend another 50 to 100 million a year in keeping the pavement up and keeping it wide and, maintaining the culverts and the bridges and everything that it takes. But everything we make goes right back into the road. And I think the best systems are built like that, where the dollars that are spent on the toll road by the customers go right back into the toll road.
Well, and I guess the brilliant part of the toll road is if you don't use it, you don't pay for it.
That's right.
Right? And if only that were the case for everything in our daily lives, right?
It's like renting a car, right?
Yeah.
You pay for what you use and you bring it back and you're done with it.
That's it. All right. So Joe Donahue, CEO, Executive Director of E470. Things that we should know as prospective users of E470 that make E470 unique. And I'll start with one. Just sitting in the parking lot before the meeting, walking to the lobby, there's a sense of pride in the people that work for E470. I overheard someone say that if you've got an incident on E470, your road crew, your roadside assistance.
We have a roadside assistance program.
They'll be there in 10 minutes or less. Yeah, which is pretty
We have
amazing.
a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year traffic management center, and we can monitor the road with cameras, and we can see if there's incidents. But if you call star 470, it brings right to our traffic management center, and if you run out of gas, you got a flat tire, something's going on, we'll dispatch your roadside assistants out there, and they'll fix your flat, get you on your way, or they'll put gas in your car if they need to, or they'll wait for you to get a tow truck if that's what you need. So we take a lot of pride in that. I think that adds to the safety of the road. We know that sometimes people are driving at night, or the weather's bad, and they know that if they break down, that there's going to be someone there to help them, no matter what time of the day it is.
And that's all included. There's no charge for any of that.
That's all,
which is pretty great. Yeah. Right. And I don't know if you mentioned it, but there are no tax dollars used in the operation of E470, which I think is pretty great as a taxpayer. So yeah, you are self-sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, the model was designed that the tolls pay for everything that needs to happen, whether it be to pay the debt off, to operate the road, but also to rebuild the road or reconstruct the road or add to the road. And so the unique part about E470 was when they built it, it was really phase one of a 30 or 40 year program, if you will, knowing that ultimately it's going to be an 8-lane divided highway with all these interchanges. But they only built what they needed at the time. But the idea was the tolls collected would pay for all that when they needed it. And so we didn't need to build it until the capacity got there, until the development happened. And so, there is no tax dollars. It's self-sufficient with tolls. And as I mentioned earlier, we haven't had to raise tolls, which is even better because we've been able to pay for increasing debt over the years and increasing costs, even through inflation, and we've been able to hold tolls the same.
That's incredible. And how do the tolls work? I guess I don't know that I asked that. Are they variable? How do the tolls break down?
So tolls are basically assessed based on the number of axles. And when I say axles, if you look at a car from the side, how many wheels are touching the ground. So this would be a 2-axle vehicle, and we charge you a rate per that. And then if you have 3 axles, we charge you a little bit more. If you have 4, we charge you a little bit more. And so it's fixed throughout the day. We do have some variation in price by location, but it doesn't change. It's not variable based on time of day or any of that. It's just, you drive through and you pay whatever the rate is based on the type of vehicle or number of axles your vehicle has.
Well, again, I don't know that I've ever been on a nicer road to surface than E470. I mean, I'm really impressed. It's clean. There's, like you said, there's nothing on the side of the road. As far as a driving experience goes, I mean, truly, short of something in Europe, I mean, this is about as nice as anything I've experienced. So, job well done. E470, who knew a tollway could be cool? But here we are. So where do we find out more about E470, Joe?
Well, you can go to our website, e470.com. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook.
Yeah. I know you're on Instagram. I'm just waiting for you to follow me back, but we'll get there. It's pretty neat thing we've got here in Colorado, E470, and Joe and your team doing a wonderful job doing what you're doing. Appreciate your time today. So Joe Donahue, CEO and Executive Director of E470 and a car guy himself. We really appreciate having you on That Car Show today.
I really appreciate it. Thank
We'll
you.
do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.